Hello students, welcome to our Activity 1 tutorial video where we will be analysing the voice and patterns of language use for the character of Jasper Jones. Okay, so you can see there on screen at the moment that we have the instructions for Activity 1 up on the screen. So what are you going to need to have in front of you whilst we do this activity? You are going to need, obviously, have this video up, which you do now, but you will also need the voice analysis table, which is this document here, in front of you or on your desktop as well, because as we do this analysis activity, we're going to be inputting our ideas and information into that document. So you'll need that in front of you, okay, and it would be a good idea now, if you don't have all the things that you need, to pause this video and get yourself organised, and then resume when you are ready to go. Okay, now just to go back very quickly to our lesson goal for this lesson, that is to analyse the voice of the character Jasper Jones. And by voice, we mean his patterns of language use and those other features that comprise the voice of a character. Now, I just want to very quickly go back to something that we did last lesson, and that was, in our last lesson, we looked at in detail what a voice is. So when we're analysing voice, these are the different patterns of language use that we're going to be looking for. So the use of slang, which is here, the repetition of certain words, the use of maxims or cliches, okay, so particular phrases that are used a lot, the use of profanity, the overall tone or emotion of their speech, the way that they put their words together, meaning their syntax, their grammar and their composition, the use of abbreviations and accent. Okay, so when we speak, we all have our own accent, and that's reflected in our patterns of language use, particularly the way that we pronounce words, the formality of speech, and the organisation and fragmentation of thoughts. So we're going to be looking for those patterns of language use in Jasper Jones' voice as a character. We may also, as we go along, identify certain other patterns of language use that are not reflected in this list here. So what I need you to do is to also get a copy of Jasper Jones in front of you, and we're going to be, to do this analysis, we're going to be reading an excerpt from chapter 1, which we've already read some weeks ago, but we're going to be starting on page 42. Now, I have a scanned copy of the book from page 42 here in front of me, okay, but I want you to look on to your book on page 42. So get yourself, pause the video and get yourself organised. Make sure you have that Microsoft Word document there in front of you, and also the copy of the novel before we go any further. And once you've got those things there, you can press resume. But you need to have that copy of the novel in front of you. I've got it here on screen. I'll have this up on screen as we are doing our analysis as well, and I'll be highlighting certain parts and also putting some sticky notes on the screen as well, so that we can keep reading and then return to patterns of language use that we've identified, and then we'll input it into our table. Alright, so that is our preamble complete, but just to summarise, we are here, or the purpose of this activity is to analyse the patterns of language use for the character of Jasper Jones. You need to have your copy of the novel in front of you, and we're going to be reading an excerpt from chapter 1 beginning on page number 42. You also need to have this document in front of you, the analysis table, and we'll be inputting our ideas in here as well. Okay, so let's start reading and let's commence with our analysis. We're on page 42. Alright, Jasper smiles. He strips one from its pack and straightens it. I purse the cigarette hard between my lips as he offers me a light, and then I lean tentatively towards the flame, like I'm moving in to kiss a horse in the arse, waiting to be kicked. Wait, wait, Jasper interrupts, still smiling. Other end, Charlie. That's the filter, see? He steals it from my mouth and lights it himself, then hands it back. I expected to cough, but not as much. One breath of it rings my lungs like a washcloth. I splutter and spit. I try for composure and fail. It's the asthma and all the humidity. Yeah, usually I squint down at my nose at the cigarette in my hand as though it's just said something confused me. I needlessly tap ash from its hood, singe the tip of my index finger and drop the cigarette. Of course, my instinct is to reach and catch it, which, to my surprise, I managed to succeed in doing. And so I burn the inside of my left palm. I hate this cigarette, and now I have to smoke it. I tear at the soft grass between my legs. It feels like the weather's dawn and we're sitting among the wreckage. We sit under that blanket of quiet for a long time. Jasper keeps pouring out his bottle. I don't know what to say. So unearthly quiet, I can hear the crackle of the paper when he inhales his smoke. The slight puck of his lips. I let my cigarette burn out discreetly between my fingers. It feels like I'm dreaming this whole thing, I say. Jasper raises his eyebrows. Yeah, I know it. This whole crazy night. Wish it were a dream, Charlie. I can't tell you. It's like something's being ripped out of me. I should have moved the page a little bit further down. Alright, so let's have a look here at the passages of dialogue that belong to Jasper. And we've got one up here further up, a very short one, where Jasper notices that Charlie is lighting the cigarette on the wrong end. He tells him to wait and then relights the cigarette for him. But we've got a more extensive pattern of dialogue down here. So Jasper says, yeah, I know it. Okay, so having a look at the way that the author has written that there, it seems as though his pronunciation as a character is very different to Charlie's. Okay, and he has a particularly strong accent. Yeah, this whole crazy night, and then we've got the use of profanity here as well. He says, I wish it was a dream, Charlie, I can't tell you. It's like something been. Okay, so we've got the abbreviation there, and we've got the mispronunciation of the word been, and he pronounces it bin. So his accent comes out in his voice there as well. Alright, so I've highlighted that. Okay, we'll come back to it soon, or at the end, and then we'll identify what we've done or what we've found, and we'll put it in our table. But for the moment, let's keep reading. Alright, so we're on the page 43 now. He grinds his cigarette and pockets it. I take the opportunity to do the same. He lights another one and goes on. Laura, she was the only person I ever felt like I knew, like I didn't even have to ask questions. I just felt comfortable. She was like my girl and my mum and my family all at the same time, you know. Everything was always easy. I mean, she would sometimes get in these moods where she just sat there quiet and never said nothing. For some reason, I understood that too, and I get like that anyway. But most of the time, she was real funny and real smart, Charlie, like I said. Alright, now let's have a look at this passage of dialogue here from Jasper, where he's describing to Charlie the nature of the relationship that he had with Laura, the girl who has been found dead hanging from the tree. Alright, so Laura, she was the only person I ever felt like I knew. So there are grammatical problems with his speech here, or grammatical inaccuracies. So when you look at it, Laura, she were, and obviously we know that the correct pronunciation is she was. So he has fragmented grammar or incorrect grammar in his speech. And based upon the dialogue that I've read and that we continue to see here, that incorrect grammar is a pattern of language use, or a use of language that he consistently maintains in his dialogue throughout the text, and it forms part of his voice as a character. So Laura, she's the only person I felt like I knew, like I didn't. Okay, so there is a mispronunciation as well. Even have to ask questions. I just felt comfortable. She was like my girl and my mum and my family all at the same time, you know. Okay, so this is a slang term, isn't it, or a colloquialism that we frequently use here in Australia, and say pattern of language use that I have myself and most people I know use that particular phrase. So we tend to, at the end of a statement, put in that question. You know, everything was always easy. I mean, she would sometimes get in these moods where she just sat there quiet. So another mispronounced the word there, okay, or incorrect use of grammar, where she just sat there quiet instead of quietly, because obviously it's an adverb, quietly, and he has dropped the adverb and just made an adjective. So he's what's called denominalized the adverb back into an adjective. Never said nothing, but for some reason I understood that too. And I get like that anyway, but most of the time she was real funny and smart, Charlie, like I said. Yeah, so his grammar here is a bit fragmented too, but not particularly distinct. When we talk, we often talk in fragments. Our grammar is often fragmented. So that's not particularly unusual, but his confusion about the use of adverbs and his mispronunciations, his use of his accent, which changes the pronunciation of words, and also his confused grammar here is something that you don't regularly see in most people's speech or in most people's voice. Jasper is sucking down that bottle. It's half gone already. I frown. I worry that he should get too tight. We may not make it back through the bush. Jasper reads my mind. It's all right, Charlie. I can hold my liquor. Not like my old man, and he's the white fella. You want some? Here, gun. So let's have a look at this little passage here of dialogue from Charlie, and let's identify or analyse the patterns of language use in his voice here. So it's all right. So that's a sort of his accent coming out there in his pronunciation of the word all right. It's all right, Charlie. I can hold my liquor. So again, the mispronunciation of the word liquor, L-I-Q-U-O-R. And this seems to be a frequent pattern of language use in this character. Not like my old man, and he's the white fella. You want some? Here, gun. So this particular word here is a term that is and has been in the past used in Aboriginal Creoles or Aboriginal English, and that is white fella. And we know as well that about Jasper's background as a mixed descent or mixed race Aboriginal boy. I reach tentatively for the cold wet bottle, more to slow him down than to quench my own desires. I sniff the lip and recoil. What is it? Bushmills. Tastes like piss and oil. Okay, so the use of profanity there as well. I take a small incendiary pull. Of course it attacks my mouth and burns down the length of my throat. I gag immediately, wiping my lips, trying to keep my lungs at bay. I slam my head and pretend to read a label that isn't there through my clouding eyes. This shit is poison. And I realise I've been betrayed by the two vices that fiction promised me I'd adore. Alright, we're moving ahead now to page 43. Sorry, not page 40. We've done page 43, moving to page 45. Okay, and their conversation continues. Press clothes and a missus and a car and a job. There's the same term there. Okay, and that's again Jasper speaking. They look at me like I'm rubbish, like I've got a choice, like I'm some runt who needs to lift his game. Another slang term there. And they're the ones telling their kids that I'm no good. They know shit about me. Use of profanity. They never ask why. Why would he be stealing? Now we got an abbreviation there that is part of his accent or his use of slang language. And this one's not that uncommon here in Australia in particular. We tend to drop the G from the end of verbs like stealing, dealing, telling. Okay, so we have a habit in our pronunciation of words here in Australia to drop the G off the end. And we all do that, that's not particularly unusual. But the author is making a point here of really emphasising that in Charlie's voice. They just reckon it's my nature, like I don't know any better. You know what else, Charlie? I've never once been caught. There's that one again. Okay, his pronunciation of the word been. Not even close. They all suspect it. They expect it. Of course he's a thief, they say. Of course he burned down the post office. Of course he hanged that poor girl. That poor girl. Jasper's lips are wet and he's starting to merge his words. Your dad doesn't even buy food, I ask, and regret my incredulity. You're joking, right? Well, I don't know. What does he spend his money on? Grog and whores and horses mostly. But even that's slowed down since his redundance. He hasn't had a job in months. The useless, I'm not going to pronounce that word, but we've got another use of profanity there. She'll join the army, go in Vietnam or bloody Vietnam or whatever and stay there. I'll sort myself out. So what do you steal off him, I press? I should actually just go back here to this one. I sort myself out. So again, that's slang pronunciation and use of accent there in his pronunciation of myself. Well, most of the stuff that I want, fags, another slang term, drink, money, when it's there. Obviously, fags in this context is a slang term for cigarettes. Whatever's in his pockets. Trick is to do it when he's stone cold gone. That way he can't be sure if he lost it, drank it, smoked it, or spent it. If he's been really cooked, he would never notice anyway. It's always different. Sometimes after he's been laying it on, if he suspects me of clearing him out, he might let it slide on account of him feeling guilty. So the drop G again. But that's not often. Jasper scratches his chest, offers back the bottle. Scratch my face. Do you ever feel guilty for taking these things? Not even once, mate. It's the use of that common colloquialism. See, from him, I just figure I'm owed. He's not a father's arsehole. I've got to take it, Charlie. So use of profanity there again, because it's never going to get off it. And all my life so far, shit's been taken off me. So I'm even in the ledger of it. Okay, so I've got the drop G there as well, the use of profanity, okay, in his voice also. But you can't think that way all the time. It's a poisonous way to think. There's no point sitting down feeling sorry for yourself because the other kids are getting Christmas presents. Or their old man give a shit. Or they've got a mum who's a top cook or whatever. Yeah, but you're still entitled to. Bugger that, Charlie. So the slang term there, very common in Australia. I told you. Mispronounced word. I don't want to think like that. There's nothing in it. I don't know. I don't want to have one of those bum lives where you just always expect your luck to be use of profanity here, because that's the way it's always been. No, we always reckoned that things would be different once we got out of this town. That's when we reckoned it all turned itself around. We moved to the city, make millions for certain. We. Jasper looks down and thumbs the bottle. Neck, the heaviness drifts down again. I want to keep it at bay. It's easier when he's talking. What's your plan when you get out? I haven't thought it all through as yet, but I'll think of something. I've got some irons in the fire. Footy maybe, who knows? Oysters up north. There's good money in them little buggers. So the use of profanity here again. Sorry, not profanity, the use of a slang term. Or I could work on a mine, maybe put some gold in my pockets, learn a trade. I don't know anything but a shoe shiner. What about you? Probably the university, right? Alright, so we'll just pause there for a moment. Okay, so we can see the repeated use of profanity, the repeated use of slang, the repeated mispronunciation of words. I squirm a bit, awkward. It suddenly feels disrespectful to be talking about this right now. talking about the future when Laura Wishart has just been robbed of hers. It doesn't seem like it matters, but maybe this is the point. Maybe all this talk is for Jasper. Maybe it's doing the same thing as that horrible bottle, trying to slow our minds down, sandbag some of the panic. I don't know, I say. I've always loved reading and stuff, books, poems. So maybe a writer. I always thought that would be the thing, to write books, make up stories. I try to couch it with an ambivalent shrug. You can see there that Charlie, as the narrator, uses the term ambivalent, and his language, patterns of language use as a narrator are extremely different to Jasper's pattern of language use, which suggests a significant difference in their personality and also their background. Like, it's not the single thing I've had on my heart since I could first read. To my surprise, Jasper nods his approval. Yeah, I reckon that's you for sure, Charlie. You think? No doubt. Reckon you'd be great. A slang term there. Move to some big city with a typewriter. So we've got some grammar issues here. Okay, so he's talking in a fragment there. So move to some big city with a typewriter. Meeting people, telling their stories. So the dropped G again. Maybe you could write my story one day, then we'll make it a film of it for certain. Imagine that. And I do imagine it. Jasper makes it sound so possible, plausible, that I might leave Corrigan to be a writer, to tell tall stories for a living. Real important literature when the mood strikes me. I sometimes like to imagine myself as a famous author, in an austere, cantilever-lit ballroom, where I'm bantering with beat poets and novelists like Harper Lee and Truman Capote. But Jasper Jones interrupts my musing. He's up and lurched, huddled over, like he's been shot in the stomach. Before I can panic, he starts evicting that noxious liquid in a thick stream that seems almost to glow. He grips the empty bottle. It smells sour. He's thick. It's bursting out of him. He looks up violently, like he's being held and punched in the stomach by invisible assailants. Jasper retches and coughs, breathing heavily on his haunches. He spits and groans softly before retching again. Then he finally stands up straight. Thought you could hold your liquor, I ask. Jasper spits again, wipes his mouth and smiles. Yeah, I can, just not for long. He turns and stumbles, steps towards the dam. Kneeling, he fills the bottle with water. He looks precarious, and he collapses back against the tree before he can drink any. The bottle spills. He's out to it, oblivious and gone. Maybe that's all he wanted. I notice it suddenly seems lighter in this space. First I wonder if I've grown accustomed to the dark. If I've adapted, then I shoot from my feet like a firecracker and shake him awake. Jasper, shit! Oh, this is Charlie speaking now. It's almost dawn. I've got to get back now. My parents know I've been out. I'm right in it. Jasper Jones squints and slowly glances up. What? He seems to wonder. Yeah, right. Okay, Charlie, just a second. Mispronounced the word there. His words are slurred. Now I really fear getting lost in our return. But not nearly as much as I fear my parents finding my bed empty. I can't even imagine. Now we've got to go. Okay, so there we go. We've finished reading our excerpt from chapter 1, and we've also, using the highlighter, identified where we have found patterns of language use that are distinct to Charlie's voice. So we've got a whole heap of highlighting here, so we now need to translate or transcribe that analysis that we've done through our reading to this analysis table here. Okay, so I'm just going to explain what is in this table, and then we'll go ahead and we will start to fill it out. Okay, and you are going to fill it all out along with me on your copy of it. Okay, so we've got the heading there, then we've got a picture of Jasper from the movie. So in this column here, we're going to identify the pattern of language use that we've identified. So here we've got a list of them, and there might also be some that are not included in that list here that we've identified through our analysis of the chapter excerpt. So patterns of language use will go in there. We're also going to count up the amount of times that that particular pattern of language use has been, or language feature has been used in the excerpt that we've just read. And then we're going to copy down a couple of examples from the excerpt that we've identified into the table as well. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're taking an analysis from here and putting it into our table here. Okay, so we only need to go back to the highlighted parts. So the first one here. Okay, so yeah, I know it. So we've got a mispronounced word there where his accent has come out, and then we've got the use of profanity. Okay, so let's incorporate that into our table here. So mispronounced word, effect of, I'm just going to quickly change this here so it doesn't disappear, effect of accent, and just downspace it, and use of profanity. Okay, so pause the video as you add yours into the table, okay, and then resume when you're ready to. Alright, so for the use of profanity, we have the mispronounced word there. Another mispronounced word here that's regularly done, and that's been. And then let's have a look at this one. She were the only person I ever felt like I knew. So let's just go back to our list. Okay, so that is pattern of language use that is about his syntax or his grammar, okay, the way that he puts words together. And his grammar is not what you'd consider correct or accurate. Okay, and it's also a fragment there. So let's add that in there. Incorrect grammar syntax. Okay, and we've got here another mispronounced word. So 1, 2, 3, we've got 3 of those, 4, 5. And let's just do this page. We've got 6 on these first 2 pages, 6 mispronounced words. Go back here. So 3, 4, 1. So just put in there 6. And bin, a couple of examples in there. Alright. Profanity, I don't know that we need to write the examples in there. Let's just count up the amount of times that it's used on these first 2 pages. So 1, that's enough I think, just 1 so far, and then we've got 1 incorrect grammar and syntax. And let's put that example in, which were the only person I ever felt like I knew. Let's put that in. Laura, she were the only person I felt like I knew. Alright, now let's go back to page 2. Make sure you're pausing, okay, if you need more time to write it in. She only person I felt like I knew, and she was real funny. So there's the incorrect grammar again. So 2 examples of that. 1, 2, 3. She were real funny. Let's go back again. What about this one here? White fella. So that's the use of colloquialism and slang, isn't it? Okay, and it's a word that is used a lot in Aboriginal Creoles, or Aboriginal English. Aboriginal Englishes, I should say, because there are many Aboriginal Creoles right around the country. Okay, so white fella. Okay, alright. Alright. Yes, another use of profanity there. So let's put that in. So let's go to the third page now and identify what we found. Alright, so we've got quite a few on here. Let's go through what we've got. So missus, it's a slang term. Runt, slang term. We've got this one, which is profanity, stealing. We haven't identified that one yet. Okay, so that's another mispronounced word. Okay, another use of profanity there. Use of slang, mispronounced word or accent, and then the drop G again. So let's start with our mispronounced words on here. So we got 1, 2, and 3. So that's 9 now. We found myself. Okay, so that's the effect of accent. Just putting that one example there. Slang terms. We've got runt and fags. So 3 now. Runt and fags. Profanity. Now, what else do we have here? Stealing in court. Use of profanity. We've got 2 examples of that in there. So that's 5. Alright, let's go back and read the next page now. I'll see what we've identified on the next page. Okay, so slang term, swear word or profanity, mispronounced word, profanity, slang term, and mispronounced word, and slang term there. So let's start with the mispronounced words. 1, 2, we've got 2 more in there. What have we got? It is evening and getting. Okay, so 11, evening and getting. Okay, so it takes it up to 13. Profanity, how many of those do we have on the page? 1, 2, 2 more examples of profanity on here, so that brings it up to 7. No incorrect grammar and syntax on here. Now slang terms, 1, and 2, 3. So we've got 3. We'll put buggers as an example in there. So we've got 6 slang terms. Buggers. Okay. Alright, let's go to the, there's another mispronounced word there, isn't there? Let's go to the next page. Alright, what have we got? We got reckon. Okay, so that's a slang term. No doubt, reckon you'd be great. Move to some big city with a typewriter. Meeting people, telling their stories. Meeting and telling. Okay, so they are mispronounced words. So that's 15. Meeting and telling. What else do we have on there? So that's incorrect syntax, so incorrect grammar. No doubt, reckon you'd be great. Move to some big city with a typewriter, meeting people. Okay, so his grammar is not correctly composed. He's talking in fragments there. Okay, so let's put that in. Reckon you'd be great. Move to the big city with a typewriter. Okay, what else do we have there? Nothing more on that page. Just another mispronounced word. Okay, so 16. Alright, so there we go. We've summarised our analysis of his patterns of language use in this table. Okay, and that was just from a short excerpt, and we can see that we've identified, and we might have missed a couple, mispronounced words or the effects of his accent in his voice as a character. Over 16 times we've got some examples there of words that he mispronounces or where his accent affects his pronunciation of the words. Okay, and sometimes significantly. We've identified, we might have missed a couple as well, 7 uses of profanity in that short excerpt there. Okay, so clearly he has a strong pattern of language use that includes profanity. Incorrect grammar and syntax, we have 4 examples of that, okay, where he has incorrectly composed or put his words together or spoken in fragments. That's not entirely unusual when people speak, for them to speak in fragments, that is, but to order their words in the incorrect way or to use the incorrect form of a word, that is less common. So, for example, here he said, Laura, she were. That is the incorrect form of that word. It should be, she was. So he's used the wrong form of a preposition in that case, and that's not very common, even in most people's patterns of language use. And then he has over 60 uses of different colloquialisms, so that's another strong pattern of language use as well within his voice as a character. Okay, so to summarize all that, we know that patterns of language use are very important in the development of a voice in a character, and we can see here some very strong patterns and repetitive patterns of language use in Jasper Jones' character. So we've read a short excerpt, we've analysed those patterns of language use, and then we have summarised our analysis of his pattern of language use in this analysis table. Okay, now next lesson you are going to have a go at doing that independently on another character, and that character will be Jeffrey Liu. So you will analyse independently his patterns of language use, and you'll find that there is a pretty significant difference between his and Jasper's. Okay, so that's where we'll end the video. Okay, make sure that you send your completed analysis table to me so that I can check that you have done it, and I've modelled that process to you now. So that means that you'll be able to have a go at it independently next lesson. Alright, so that's where the video will end. Make sure you go back over any of the content from this lesson if you need some more practice with it. Alright guys, I'll speak to you next lesson.